Okay, today we are starting to talk about the war poets. And so you're opening your book, page 188, and you find the war poets. It's very simple to imagine what kind of poets they were. Anyhow, in these slides you can find a few more information. Who were the soldiers? Okay, you know that the World War I was involved a lot of countries, so very few communities remained untouched. Okay, in this war, and before conscription, what is conscription is reclutamento was introduced. Okay, in 1916, a lot of people, young boys, had decided to take part to the war. The officers had mainly received an education based on the classics, so this means that the officers were not, as in other occasions, professional soldiers, but they were simple students, simple young boys who had received an education, so they were quite prepared by the school. And when they decided to enter the wars, they were literate people. And they also had received the Victorian and Edwardian ideas of nationalism. So they were completely aware, deeply aware that they had to fight for their country, for the nation. So you see that also even private soldiers were literate and familiar with English literary tradition. So they were literate soldiers. Which was the attitude toward war in this period? When the war broke out, so at the beginning, many young people enlisted because they considered the war as a noble and compulsory adventure. So they thought that it was necessary to take part into war. And they were also convinced that they would have got fame from the war. After the Battle of the Somme in 1916, there was pride and excitement were replaced by doubt and disillusionment. Okay, so we have a complete change, a reversal of situation from the beginning to we can say the middle of the war. The trench warfare. You see that this is a real picture. So it is the way they lived in the trenches. Okay, life in the trenches was hell. Okay, an inferno because of rain and mud. Okay, this was the rain and mud, fango. Decaying bodies, because the people who died sometimes remained there. Okay, so they had their friends in the composition besides them. Repeated bombings, okay, so the impossibility to have a rest, okay, and the use of poison gas, which was an extra danger for them. So in this atmosphere, the only way for these literate people was to, we can say, to find a way to forget the situation, writing songs, letters to the families, and poems. Okay. The war poets, we have a group of poets, okay. They volunteered to fight, so they had freely decided to go to fight. They experienced the fighting, and in most cases they lost their lives in a conflict. So this group of poets that had decided on a voluntary basis to take part in the war, most of them were killed during the war. Okay, the recurrent themes we find in the poems of these soldiers are courage, patriotism, glory, duty, loss of innocence, heroism, violence, pain, and suffering. So the typical themes we may expect in this situation. Okay, and the first one we are talking today is Rupert Brooke. Okay, he was born in 1887 and he died in 1915. So you can easily understand that he died very, very young. And his entire reputation as a war poet is linked to 5 sonnets of 1914. So he just wrote 5 sonnets, but they were particularly appreciated and became famous. Brooke had limited war experience and he died of blood poisoning. So he died because of, he was not killed by the war by any gun, but he died because of blood poisoning. Okay, and he was buried on the Greek island of Skiros. Okay, what does it do? Okay, as he lived, he didn't live long. He had, and his experience as a soldier was very limited. He expresses in his sonnets a sentimental attitude to war, so he's in favor of the war. Okay, war is clean and cleansing. Okay, the only thing that can suffer is the body. Okay, death is seen as a reward and it is glorious to die for one's country. Okay, so the vision, the overall idea of war is positive. So war is something positive for also for the people who die. Okay, and we have Wilfred Owen. Okay, he was born in 93 and he was 21 when the war broke out. He was a teacher and in 1915 he went back to England and enlisted. Okay, he had traumatic experiences because he fell through a shell hole into a cellar and was trapped in the dark for 3 days. Okay, so he was blown out of the trench in which he was taking cover from an artillery bombardment, and he was eventually diagnosed as having shell shock and was sent to Craig Lockhart War Hospital near Edinburgh. Okay, so the experience he had was really traumatic. Okay, he also made friend with Siegfried Sassoon, who is another war poet. They had a kind of friendship and literary partnership, so they sometimes worked together. His vision of war is, though, completely different from the one of Rupert Brooke. Okay. Okay, he was awarded the Military Cross for bravery and he never received it because he was killed on the 4th of November in 1918, 7 days before the armistice. He is regarded as the greatest of the war poets. Okay, Owen. And then we have, okay, there were Okay, when they published his poems, there was a preface, okay, and in his preface he expressed his idea about war. He said, "This book is not about heroes. English poetry is not yet fit to speak of them. Nor is it about deeds or lands, deeds, vi ricordate, le grandi azioni, or lands, or anything about glory, honor, might, majesty, dominion, or power, except war. Above all, I am not concerned with poetry. My subject is war, and the pity of war. The poetry is in the pity. Yet these elegies are to this generation in no sense consolatory. They may be to the next. All a poet can do today is warn, avvertire. That is why the true poets must be truthful." Okay, this was his idea about poetry and about the role of the poet. And we have in his poems, he describes the miserable conditions of soldiers, mud, rats, barbed wire, lice, fleas, corpses, blood. You see that it is completely different from the main themes of Brooke. And he also introduced the technical innovation of para-rhymes, so it means half rhymes where the consonants in two different words are the same but the vowels vary. His poems, okay, and that's all for him. Then we have Sassoon. He was educated at Cambridge, okay, he studied law and history, he lived the life of a sportsman, okay, he wrote poetry before the war, okay, and he joined the war in 1915. And he was also very glorious, very reliable as a soldier. His reactions to the realities of the war were bitter and violent. He expressed them through irony in his poems. So he's ironic, sadly ironic, and protested against the war, reading out a declaration against it in the House of Commons. He was not court-martialed because his friend and fellow Graves convinced the review board that Sassoon was suffering from shell shock, so he also risked to be sentenced by a court. He was sent to Craiglockhart War Hospital, and where he met Wilfred Owen, and they influenced one another. His poems, okay, he denounced the political errors, okay, he used a documentary manner, used the satire, sardonic distancing. His poems expressed neither compassion nor pity, but the bitter spontaneity of shocking and realistic details. So he wanted to shock the people with a realistic with a description of what happened in war. In war, yes. After the war, he became a pacifist and got involved in politics with the Labour Party, okay? And in 1957 he became a Roman Catholic, so
Rupert Brooke, The Soldier.
If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by sons of home. And think, this heart, all evil shed away, a pulse in the eternal mind, no less gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given. Her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends, and gentleness in hearts at peace, under an English heaven.
Change this faith. And we are not studying Isaac. Okay, so this is a very quick